It takes a minute. Good morning. We are going to start looking at tire dynamics today. So I have my teaching points today for first period that we will look at and understand the nomenclature of a tire. We look at design detail or what is this tire, why do we require tires, how these pneumatic tires can fulfill or why are they popular, they are used in road vehicles. Those are all something that we will understand about tires maybe in the first period, and then we will go into finding out how can we find out an important tractive force whenever you apply torque to the driving wheel that is developed in a tire. So we will look at a simple tire model and then try to understand the model physics and derive the expression for the tractive force that can be developed or necessary to be developed for vehicle motion. So that's what is the plan for the two periods today that we are going to have in this morning. So let me share my presentation. Hope you are able to see lecture number 2, mechanics of pneumatic tires. Right, so let me pose this question: why pneumatic tires are used in road vehicles and are also used in off-road vehicles? Can anyone answer? Why the pneumatic tires are preferred? That's what we were seeing in the last class as well. If you look at see that basic function of the tire is not only to support the weight of the vehicle, also to provide the three important aspects. One is to provide cushion, another one is to provide sufficient traction for driving or braking whenever it is necessary, or it is to have an adequate steering control and direction stability. So you know that these requirements essentially to meet a characteristic of a vehicle for which it is designed. So one is called performance, another one is handling. Sorry, I just have changed this. Let me. Sorry. Yeah, so this order, when you say cushion, it's an isolation that is to be required, that vibration does not come into your vehicle. So let's call that as a right part of our vehicle dynamics. And when you require to develop the necessary traction or braking force at the road tire interaction, then we call that the vehicle do its performance. And the steering control and direction stability essentially takes care of an important vehicle characteristic called handling. So this is what we have seen. So these basic functions can be nicely fulfilled by the pneumatic tires. That's why they are very popular, and they are utilized, exploited thoroughly on the road vehicles. Right, so that's one of the reason why. And understanding of this tire dynamics is a fundamental requirement for our vehicle dynamic course, right? Because that is the one which is going to develop necessary forces and moments at its interaction with the road surface. So if you have convinced with those points, let us just look at what is this tire and its construction details. So you see in this picture, there are two types of tire that can be. One is called bias ply tire, another one is called a radial ply tire. So this picture essentially shows you a rim. See, you see this is a rim, and it is not a full wheel, tire wheel assembly is shown. So it is a sector of tire wheel assembly. In that you see this rim over which you have this construction. Similarly on the other side for a radial ply tire. So the main difference between bias ply tire and radial ply tire is from the orientation of something called cords. So you see here there are lines which are inclined. You see there are lines incline and there are lines go from one end. This is called a bead, from bead to bead. So this all are what is called cards. So if you look at what is an important component of the tire. So in this tire construction, you should first understand what is carcass. So that's called carcass. So carcass is what is shown here to you. So this section, whatever that you have, is what is called a carcass. So the carcass will have your tread. This is tread portion, and this is called the shoulder region, and this is called sidewall region. And you see that's one side bead and another side bead. So from bead to bead, this carcass goes like this. So if you take a tire wheel assembly and you cut the tire and take a sector out of it, what you see that is a section of the tire, and that is what is essentially called a carcass. And that carcass is made of number of plies. So that's what is carcass plies here, running at biased angle. So these are carcass plies, and this plies in composition of the high modulus of elasticity reinforcement cased inside the low modulus of elasticity rubber material. So that is what is this carcass. So you see there is one ply, there is a second ply, third ply, fourth ply, like that. So these plies that is in this bias ply tires are all together is what is called the carcass plies. And you see these cards which are made of maybe some synthetic material, nylon, or it can also be metallic steel wires. So they will be arranged in a particular orientation. So this orientation is what is given by what is called a crown angle. So you see this is that top view of the tire, and you see there's one ply where this orientation of these cards are shown, and these cards are now oriented at an angle of 40 degrees, right? And you see one ply goes one direction from bead to bead. The other plies has got its reinforcement comes in the other direction. So like that there will be stacking of number of plies which constitute an element important part in the tire section called carcass. So this is what you have to first understand. So you know now what is carcass and cards, and these beads are steel wires which runs in a circular fashion and seated on this rim. So that this carcass ply which is running from one end to the other, or it is anchored by these beads, this carcass. And this is what is called a cavity. This is what is called a cavity in a tire. So this is of torus shape. So you will have the entire cavity filled with an inflated pressurized air. Right? So what's happening when this inflation pressure is there? These cards are under tension. These cards are going to be under tension. So as this under tension and it is loaded and wheels are rolling, what will happen? This crown angle orientation of this reinforcement or cards in these plies are going to get flexing. So they are going to have this diamond shaped, and then that angle will be reducing and increasing like that. So that's essentially going to create tension in these cards. So when these cards are under tension, and you see that the rim of your tire wheel assembly can be looked at in an analogous way, how the rim of your bicycle, right? So is looked at. So in bicycle, what's happening? The hub of the bicycle is being suspended by spokes, and in turn the spokes are connected in rim. The bottom of the rim is supported on the ground. And which are the elements there under tension? As that all spokes are under tension. So the similar fashion, these cards are under tension, especially on the side wall. You see these cards are under tension, and those cards are hanging this entire rim, and then in turn the rim is supported on the ground. So that is how you would have a necessary configuration of your tire during your vehicle motion. Like in analogous way, you look at a bicycle tire wheel assembly, right? And you see there is a significance of this crown angle. So here 40 degrees, you look at on another hand on a radial ply tire, it is 20 degrees. And also you can see there are some differences here in this construction. So over this plies, you see there are tread. These are called tread buttons. So this is tread element. This is very important. The material of this tread should be such that it should be good in no good abrasion and tearing, and crack growth can be possible. So the material should withstand against the tearing of your tread element or wear of tread element, or if there are any crack that should not propagate. So what would happen? You would have the special rubber compound for this portion. And similarly, if you look at this sidewall portion, see this portion tread, and this is what is sidewall portion, and this shown is what is called the shoulder. The sidewall rubber compound material would be of such that maybe they are high resistant for fatigue, because as you are riding, your tire will be flexing, and the flexing will be on the sidewall. So it is under cyclic loading. So it is under fatigue. So there should be material compound for the sidewall, which is such that it would resist or it would enhance the life of the tire against fatigue, or it's called scuffing. And you see the special material is styrene butadiene is what is that's the part of rubber compound in the sidewall portion of your tire. So if you look at it, is not one rubber compound or one rubber in this tire. There are many components and many compounds are present. And the tire manufacturing itself is like cooking your tire. So we see sometime time is there manufacturing of tire in an industry, and what are various tests that are conducted to ensure that endurance or the life of the tire that we will see later, right? So in short, this is what you see that, and especially nowadays the tires are tubeless tires. So it's very important that the leakage of air should not be there. So there should be tight seating of your ply bead on the rim. There should not be any leakage, as well as there should not be any leakage that is coming from cavity through any of the surface of the tread or shoulder or sidewall region. So what is that? A special inner liner will be provided in both the cases of tubeless tires, which should have high what is that you call it as the impermeability, high impermeability property of the rubber compound, so that it will not allow any air leakage or something. So it would hold the necessary inflation pressure inside the tire. And coming back again here, what is the main difference here that you could see here additionally in radial ply tire than that of bias ply tire is these belts. Look at these belts. So what are these belts? The belts are not running from bead to bead, whereas plies are running from bead to bead. You see in bias ply tire, there are number of plies, there are no belts. Whereas in the case of radial ply tire, you see there are a few number of plies, 2 or 3. After that, you have belts over which it is stacked. But the belts are only covered in the tread block portion. That's not coming beyond shoulder region and to the sidewall. So you see the plies and the sidewalls. After that, there are belts on the tread over this stack. So belts can be of 2-3 belts according to the tires, whether they are for application for passenger car or application for heavy trucks. Accordingly, these numbers would be differing. And you see the cards running here, these diagrams are in the belt, not in the plies. So there are plies, there are belts. So the plies card orientation, if you look at, they run from bead to bead. So you see they are having 90-degree angle for the wheel central plane. So what is this line? It is wheel center plane line, correct? You have a center plane of a wheel and its intersection with the tire would give you this. So for this line, whatever the inclination is, what is defining crown angle. In the belt, you see that's 20 degrees. Whereas in the plies in the radial tire, it is 90 degrees. 90 degrees. So why this kind of arrangement of reinforcements inside plies and belts in a radial ply tire? Why? Because this crown angle is very important, as they are going to decide the tension value in the cards reinforcement, in the plies as well as in the belt. So they are going to be responsible for a generation of your tractive forces. So if that is not only force, tractive forces, all forces and moments responsible for the tire rod interaction, during the tire rod interaction. So if we have 90 degrees crown angle in case of bias ply tire, what this bias ply tire would do in its application is it would provide a good comfort for the drivers and occupants, but it will not provide a good handling part of that. So we just have seen that the tire has to provide not only the isolation of your vibration, also it has to provide the necessary steering control and stability of the vehicle. So that part would be question mark if we have more crown angle. Whereas if you have less crown angle, on the other hand, you would have more of the handling properties of your tire, but it will not provide the necessary ride part of your expectation. So there should be a compromise, and that compromise is what is made by this radial ply tire. Having plies cards are running at 90 degrees would take care of ride part, and the belt ply cards are running at 20 degrees would take care of handling part. So you would have both ride and handling would be met by radial ply tire. That is the reason why the first radial tire introduced by Michelin in the year of 1948 is become more and more popular nowadays. Even on the trucks and heavy vehicles, the requirement earlier was bias ply tire or getting replaced by radial ply tires. If you look at bias ply tires are still in use in agricultural field, off the road vehicle, or you take motorcycle tires, most of the tires are bias ply tires. Nowadays also radial ply tires are coming up to meet this in sporty motorbikes. Otherwise, you see that bicycle tires or motorcycle tires still are preferred by bias ply tire. Why is it? Because it would be good in handling as well as in ride part, and you would see that the variation of lateral force was gradually increasing in case of a motorcycle when bias ply tires are used, rather a radial ply tire. That are some of the supporting statement that would say why bias ply is preferred in two wheelers, why radial tires have become popular nowadays in ground vehicles and four wheelers or trucks and so on. So that's all something that you should always able to talk when you are saying about tires and its construction. So let's move ahead. Look at here, I just have put this detailed diagram so that you will have different components clarity. So radial tire components, if you look at, you see this is called bead. So bead is not one single steel wire. It is bundle of steel wires are bind together, and that goes in a circumferential fashion on both sides of the rim. And you see the body plies, that's called carcass, that goes from one bead to the other bead. And you see here, this is of 90-degree crown angle. So it would be taken this necessarily for right. And you see there are something called the belt buffer. So that is what is to separate this belt from this. So the reinforcement or cards in the body ply and the cards in this belt not necessarily the same. So this belt buffer will take care of their interaction. And there are inner layers of belts, and then there is something. So this is called the base thread or cap, or like the thread buttons that you should say. And this portion is what is called the sidewall, and base thread and sidewall is connected by this is what is called the shoulder region of the tire. So the same, if you look at for a non-radial tire component, you would see that this is a non-radial tire, but it's not biased tire. It is biased belted tire. So the combination, you would see that you have plies, you have also belts, right? So this is that's why it's non-radial tire, but it's not only stacked by plies, it is also stacked by belts. So it is bias belted tire section detail. And then look at another important tire information. If you see any tire, you would have on its side wall, there are important markings. And the tire is nomenclated by this way. So P215/60 or 1596H. When I say, I should understand that P stands for passenger car tire, and this 215 is what is called a tire width in mm. Look at these all units important, because if you are given this, you should be able to calculate what is the radius of the tire from this data. And you see that what is 60 is called an aspect ratio. It is a ratio of the height of the tire to that of width of the tire. And R here stands for radial tire, what we have just now seen. And then this 15 is what is the rim diameter in inches, right? And there are rating, load rating and speed rating. Load rating by number and speed rating by alphabet. So 96 load rating and H speed rating. So what does that refer? That we would see. And you also see there are date of manufacturing, manufacturer's name, all on the side wall. So those are here number 1 to 8, and that you could make out the reading from this slide. And this is an example of this European car tire, right? So let's look at now again in detail this section. So tire wheel dimension, if you look at what is the section width we are talking about. So section width is from sidewall to sidewall, whatever the width, that's what is section width. Tread width, what is this tread cap or base tread width. Section height is, see this bead bottom, from there to the top of your tread. So that is what is section height. So section height compared to that of section is less. So the ratio of section height by section width is what is called an aspect ratio. And then this is the rim section, and you see similarly it is there here. And whatever this bead to bead width, if you look at that, it's called pan width. That's in the rim, correct? Bead one end to the other end. Your tire under loading, this would come out. So your section width is from sidewall to sidewall. So you should know what is span width and what is section width. And you see here again that not unloaded tire, you can say that's just to put here, which is again for your understanding. Next, what are these numbers that we are talking about, right? There is some 96 load rating and H speed rating. So I have just to put these tables for you to have that clarity. So 96, you look at here, 96 in load rating. So this table 1.1 is maximum load carrying capacity of tire index. So if you see this number 96, that means the tire can carry 710 kgs of load, correct? 710 kgs of load. So that's the maximum load carrying capacity of the tire. And you see that H word, so H alphabet. So that is for the maximum speed rating tire index. So that tire can have a maximum speed of 210 kilometers per hour. So if your tire is going beyond this speed, there would be something called permanent deformation in your tire called standing formation and so on. So what is that you should also remember? This tire is made of rubber, and rubber is so viscous in nature compared to the the other rim. If we take it is not it is metal. So you would have the damping property of your steel is very low than that of the damping property of your tire, which is maximum of rubber compounds. So the damping nature of the tire would always dissipate heat. That's very important. We will talk on that. With that, you understand this table 1.1 and 1.2. You also have here table 1.3. So that's for your off-road vehicle, other things. So maximum speed index and vehicle classification. So for that you would have this, right? Yeah. Then Look at the tire behavior in presence of lateral force. So of course, what would happen? That's an advantage of radial tire. Why do we prefer radial tire? If the lateral force, side force is acting on your vehicle, and that is experienced by the wheel center. So the wheel will be pushed in lateral direction, but you see the contact is flat. That's possible in case of a radial tire. That's why it is good in handling, and that's because of your belts present along with your flies. Whereas the non-radial tire, if you take, you see that contact is lost and you have this kind of thing, right? So this is one of the important, this picture I just put so that it will be retained in your mind. And another something called the plus one concept. So what is plus one concept? If you look at, I do not want to change my dimension of tire wheel assembly, overall dimension. So that should be retained, but I should have different tires for my different requirement. So I can increase my tire width. So 20 mm increase would increase the rim diameter by 1 inch. So that's what is the rule, right? The plus one concept is here, if I increase 20 mm in the tire width, I should increase 1 inch in my diameter. So you see, these are all some standard tires which are used in different vehicles. So this R17 all would be in a sport utility vehicle, a high class vehicle. You would see these tires. So R15 and R16 common in sedan class that you can see. Right. So you see here what is happening, and that time aspect ratio, you see, it reduces. So high aspect ratio is preferred in high end. You see the as if it's small ring is there in high end cars, whereas here the aspect ratio is more. So the aspect ratio is reduced by 10%. So this is percentage 65, 55, and 45, and the section width increases and the rim size increases. But what is the retain? The overall dimension or radius of your tire wheel assembly is retained, right? So that's what is called the plus one concept in tire construction. And then you look at tire components by weight percentages. So that we are talking on reinforcements. What are those required for carts? That can be steel, rayon, nylon. So that would constitute the weight of an entire tire by 16%. And rubber, which can be natural rubber or synthetic rubber, which would take care of this much portion. So this contribution, rubber is the highest compared to the remaining. There are compounds in the rubber, so added, that can be carbon, silica, and chalk, so 30%. And there are some softener called oil, resins, 10%. There's something called the vulcanization process, which is important, wherein the sulfur or zinc oxide will be added. So you require another 4%. Some miscellaneous special ingredients of the trades of the tires, 2%. So this all put together, you would say that the weight portion of your different components of the tires. And then this rim weight reduction is another important talk nowadays. So if you look at, you have vehicles with steel alloys, steel wheels, and alloy wheels that we talk. So what is the advantage? If your tire goes over it, you see that the rebound or the bounce is reduced, and then your vehicle jump will also be reduced. So steel wheel would be having more bounce compared to that of magnesium rim or aluminum alloy wheels. So nowadays this is more preferred, and it's all because of the weight reduction that is possible if you have such things, and that is also giving you an added advantage in your vehicle, because when the vehicle jumps like that, there will be load transfer from one end to the other end, and your CG location would get disturbed for an instant, and that all would be taken care if you have alloy wheels fitted. So that is why you see most of the vehicle nowadays coming with the alloy wheel. High-end vehicle would be with the magnesium rim wheels, but these are very costlier. But for a long run and for the betterment of your vehicle design, these are preferred. So this is another thing that you should remember. And something on tire stiffness, very important. We are going to use these stiffness values extensively as you are going to derive expression and solve some problems. So the stiffness are three. One is called the longitudinal stiffness of the tire, vertical stiffness of the tire, and lateral stiffness of the tire. So how are they calculated for the tire? If this is a stationary tire, see, it's loaded, and then the tire will be pulled like this. So the loaded tire will be pulled to the platform. So whatever the deformation that comes for the load, decide what is this longitudinal stiffness. So the longitudinal stiffness value is what is greatest value in the tire. What is vertical stiffness? When you load, there is a deflection here. So load by deflection is what is vertical stiffness. And this would be having its value intermediate. And lateral stiffness is the lowest stiffness in the tire. So if I take a linear region, I can assume that it's constant value. But you see here there is a non-linear region and a non-linear region from here onwards, and there is a non-linear region. Whereas here it is linear, right? So you have your ride models, especially like quarter car model or half car model that you are doing, pitch and bounce model. So at that time you put your tire stiffness, that's constant value, you can take it. Whereas in your tractive force expression that you derive, or your lateral force expression that you derive, which is going to be at this interaction point, you would not be able to have them as a linear values. If you can have it and work out, but you should also know how that tire going to generate force, which would take care of this portion. So that is all very important. And that time we call this by a special stiffness called the longitudinal slip stiffness. This is a cornering slip stiffness, like that we would call. And these are the three different stiffness values of your tire, just to have an idea, right? Yeah. And then tire behavior, if you look at, the tire can behave as a modal behavior. So when the tire is excited, the circle shape can change like this low. So you can have this kind of standing wave for a particular excitation frequency. So this can be like oval shape, 2 lobe, 3 lobe, 4 lobe, and so on. So the tire not necessarily as a rigid wheel. So the tire behavior to be considered to be a rigid wheel, there is no deformation for a right part of the study is concerned. So I will have my lumped mass and stiffness is same. The lumped mass is going up and down, and the unsprung mass is what I consider to be the tire. I don't require this behavior accounting into my ride models. Into my ride models. Whereas if I had to account the same for my noise perception, what is that noise radiated, what is the noise coming that inside, then you see that modal behavior is important for the tire. You would also see there is a non-modal structural behavior of the tire under high frequency excitation. So when you say high frequency is excited, you would see that there is local deformation, but that would die out. As I was telling you that this is of rubber maximum, and having high damping property. So with the high damping property, you would see that this would immediately die out in a higher frequencies. High frequency you have a long wavelength, and the long wavelength would be dying out quickly, right? Sorry, a high frequency will have a shorter wavelength. The shorter wavelength propagation would be died out quickly. Whereas at the lower frequencies, you'll have a high wavelength. That wavelength will be reflected as this kind of mode shape. So you see there's tire modal behavior, non-modal behavior, and the tire to be considered as a lumped mass and spring damper system. So when what is that model that you need to prefer is going to be according to the mathematical model that you are aiming at to solve. Whether you want to solve for a vibrational problem, you want to solve for a noise problem, accordingly you should choose your tire model. And of course, the last class we have looked at this tire axis system. This tire axis system is right-hand Cartesian coordinate system, and also called an SAE coordinate system. SAE tire coordinate system. So what is important here is this x-axis is what is vertical plane intersection with the ground is what is x-axis. But the wheel plane is at an angle to this vertical plane, at an angle to the vertical plane. That angle is what is called a camber angle. Correct? Vertical plane is the one which is XZ plane. Wheel plane is not combined with this XZ plane. It is at an angle called gamma angle. Here it's camber angle. Similarly, the heading direction is not along this positive X axis, but it is at an angle called slip angle. That's positive slip angle here. And this is very important, rolling resistant moment, and how it has come, that we will see. So here your right hand coordinate system is this. This is your positive x-axis, this is your positive y-axis, and this is positive z-axis. But SAE looks at this coordination. This coordinate can be rotated anyway in this space, but this x, y, z should not change. So SAE recommendation is that take such coordinate to represent your forces and moments in a vehicle in this orientation. So your forward direction of your vehicle is x direction, this is y direction, this is z direction. You also have another coordinate system called the ISO coordinate system, which should prefer to have it like that. So you should not get confused with this. There are literature textbooks follow ISO coordinate system. There are books follows SAE coordinate system. We are going to look at SAE coordinate system most of the time in our study, right? So this is very important tire axis system. And this axis system, where is it fixed? It is fixed in the tire road interaction at the contact path center, say. Okay. And importantly now, the behavior of tire when you apply driving torque and braking torque, that you have to understand. So this is very important understanding to go ahead with defining or deriving your tractive force. So what is this? Look at here on the left hand side, this when driving torque is applied on your tire wheel assembly. So this MW is what is driving torque, and omega here is wheel angular speed. V here is wheel center velocity, linear velocity. And what is this epsilon is what is strain, compressive strain. And what is this Fx is tractive force. And this Fz is normal force. And normal force is not in line with this vertical line, passes through center. It is in front of this center of the contact patch. Contact patch is from here to here. So if I take that as a rectangle shape in the top view, that's not drawn. And you see here, there is a distribution of normal pressure and the longitudinal stress. So normal pressure is what is that is there into the contact area is what is this Fz. So that is not uniform throughout. It is varying like this way. So at the edges you have less normal pressure, and you have at the center the more. And that is not with the center of the contact patch, in front of the contact patch, slightly on this side. And longitudinal stress when you apply the driving torque, you see you have here 0 initially, but you have more and then it is dropping down, right? So we'll see how this comes. So the same on the other hand, braking torque when you apply, you have all these terms defined just now. And you have your normal load is more skewed than this, and you look at your braking force is swapping here like this, and here it is on the negative side because it's braking that. So what is very important is you should understand 3 rolling condition of the tire. One is rolling condition during driving torque. Another one is rolling condition during braking torque applied. You won't apply both driving torque and braking torque in your vehicle. Do you apply when you drive your car, you are accelerating, do you also apply braking? Then it is kind of abusing your vehicle. So you will not do that. So these are an independent scenarios. And you would look at another important rolling condition is what is called the free rolling condition. Free rolling condition of your tire. So what is free rolling condition of the tire? The tire is neither applied with the driving torque nor by braking torque. So the tire is freely rolling. So what is the main difference of that is coming from this epsilon definition here. Epsilon is strain. So in case of driving torque, when it is applied, you see that entire tire in front of the contact patch. So this is a direction of wheel translation. And you see the in front of the contact patch, the portion of the tire tread is under compression, also that is prolonged in the contact patch, and then again it comes out. So the circle what is shown is an unloaded tire, and the loaded tire will be having flat. At that time you will see this pressure is distributed uniform, but when it is rolling, you would see at the edges the pressure drops, so that you get such kind of distribution of pressure and the normal load. That's the understanding. When your driving torque is applied, what is happening? There is a compression in front of the contact patch as well as in the contact patch zone. So the compression of tread would make an effective length of your tread of a free tire, which is 2 pi r, would be now not the same. It would be less. So for one revolution of this tire, the tire translation is not of its expected equivalent translational distance. So that would be shorter than that of the one which would be made by a free rolling tire. So that's an important understanding. So if free rolling tire I consider where there is no driving torque or braking torque, and the translation of my O point, center of the wheel, for one revolution is 2 pi r, where small r is free rolling radius. Whereas when driving torque is applied, the radius would change here, that is being given by an effective radius Re. So effective radius Re is always less than free rolling radius. Right? So because of this Re, so the equivalent translation is 2 pi Re. So that will be lesser than that of 2 pi Re is less than 2 pi R. Right? So that is what is happening here. Whereas on the other hand, when you are applying braking torque, what will happen? There will be stretch in the tread portion, which is in front of your contact patch. The stretch would make your tire circumference more than that of free rolling tire. So in this scenario, you would see that 2 pi Re is greater than 2 pi R. So you would see the distance covered during braking would be more than that of what would be possible by free rolling. So you would define here a phenomena called slip, and you would define a phenomena called here skid because of these differences. So the slip and skid are necessary events to get your traction force or your braking force to be generated. If this is not happening, you would not have these forces developed. So why this is happening? In case of driving torque applied, you have the compression. So what is happening? An elemental length L considered on the circumference is no more of the same length small l, or this is 1 unit. It is less than that of our L unit. So L into 1 minus this strain. So what is this strain? This strain is defined simply as E naught by this L, or E naught by small lambda, let me call. So this is what is in front of this portion. So this lambda is length of the tread under compression just in front of this, and this epsilon value is constant in the contact patch, whereas here it is proportional to this smaller length. So strain is change in length, or it's elastic deformation by the length. So I could define this E naught, which is elastic deformation in front of this contact patch, which is going to be lambda times this epsilon. So this is a simple longitudinal strain in strength of material what you study, the same change in length by original length. So you get a strain. So if the strain is due to compression, compressive strain, you would see that you have your length reduction. If the strain is due to the stretch, then the tensile nature of the strain, you get your length, this is increasing, hence the 2 pi r increases. This is all what is the deformation, because of which what is the behavior in the tire. And this changes would make the difference in your equivalent translation between two scenarios while driving torque applied, what's happening if it is not applied. free rolling. So that's what is called going to define you what is called the slip and skid. We will see that definition again in detail in the next period, and I'm going to have another few more slides and end this period. So factors that affect rolling resistance. So we have to understand what is this rolling resistance. So you see here there's something called rolling resistant moment. So why this rolling resistant moment here is because of the material nature. So the tire construction material is an important primary source for this rolling resistance. So if you look at the distribution of your normal pressure, like you have seen in this slide itself, I will make use of that. And this slide itself, it is not along this, it is at a distance s in front of the contact patch. So this is why, because of this hysteresis loading of your tire. When this driving torque is applied, you have your loading, and unloading will not be on the same path as this tread goes like that and coming back. So what's happening? It is loading means under compression. Correct. So here there is no experience of compression or something. So when it is beyond from this point till say this point, the tread is not experiencing anything. But as it is going to enter your contact patch, it is under compression. So when it is under compression, it is under deformation. And also you see the sidewall will have accordingly a shear deformation. That all we will see later. And this deformation is what is going to cause the normal pressure distribution always acting in front of the contact patch. It is not necessarily when driving torque is applied. Even at free rolling condition, you see this distribution of normal is in front of this, skewed on this side. And what would happen for an equilibrium? You see that this normal load is going to create now a moment against this driving torque. When it is made zero, still it is appearing. So let me just put that here. So when I have my tire and free rolling condition, so this is a tire contact patch, pardon for the not perfect circle. So it's in the free rolling condition. I would see that my contact patch normal pressure distribution would be, if this is the direction of rotation and this is V, I would have my pressure distribution something like this, normal pressure distribution. So it is skewed to this at a distance S, right? So when I have this, what will happen? I will have my for equilibrium to maintain, correct? There is no driving torque here. So Wm is 0. So here Fx is 0. So what is that? Is there only this normal pressure? So normal pressure would create a moment, and this moment is what is called rolling resistant moment. And to make a dynamic equilibrium, I require a force, and that force is what is in the opposite direction. So I get this force, and that is my rolling resistance force. So the rolling resistance force moment about this would balance this moment. So if you look at this rolling resistant force would be proportional to this normal load. So if I have this is my normal load Fz or it is W, then I would have my Fr is given by small f into Fr, or it is sorry Fn normal load, or it is small Fr W. You look at it. So what is this called? Rolling resistance coefficient, rolling resistance coefficient, right? So this is why, because of material is rubber, highly damp material undergo hysteresis loss. So hysteresis loss is something if we are having loading, and that loading will not come by unloading. So this is under compression, comes out, and it's again free, again it's under compression, again under compression. So if you take a particular portion length L, And you observe that the comes portion is under compression, and it is then coming out of the compression. Again, it comes compression. So it is what is cyclic loading. So when it is going loading, and when it comes here, it is not coming back on this. Rather, it is coming back with the hysteresis. There is some residual strain there here. So this is what is responsible for heat dissipation, and this heat dissipation also is an important reason why you do not have an uniform distribution of normal pressure, and the pressure is always on ahead of your center of contact. And since this normal is here, for a dynamic equilibrium, you require a balancing force, and this force is what is now manifesting. So let us call this RR, rolling resistance force. So RR. And you get this, right? So that is what is the definition of rolling resistant force, and that is getting influenced primarily by tire construction and material. And there are other factors which are also going to influence your rolling resistance. That can be a road surface condition or inflation pressure, speed. As speed increases, your rolling resistance increases. Temperature, as temperature increases, you would also have a variation in your rolling resistance. Either you do traction or braking. The tire diameter also has an influence. So I would recommend that you go through the textbook Wang and then read. There are example cases for this all to understand. And the rolling resistance coefficients are given for various road surfaces, right? For car tires, if you look at concrete and asphalt and rolled gravel, these are all different road surfaces. Your rolling resistance of the same tire on these surfaces are different. The one on the field you look at, you have more rolling resistance compared to that of when you drive on the road surface. So the same car tire, when it goes on off the road, you see the percentage of increase is more than 100%, right? So here 0.013, but here you see this more. So whenever you go on a mud road or off the road, your driving vehicle, you see there are more of fuel consumption that time comes, because the rolling resistance is something going to be taking your traction away, right? Because always acting against the tractive force. And then truck tires, you see, these are the values on the road. So these are taken again from this automotive handbook by Bosch, right? So when you have to consider some problems, these values can be readily taken and used according to the road condition. And you also have supporting thing for the rated load and inflation pressure for the different tires that we have seen, bias tires and radial tire. The rolling resistance in the bias tire is more than that of the radial tire. In case of car tires, the same for the truck tires as well. So if you are asked the question, the bias tire nowadays, why not preferred? Why radial tire popular in trucks and other thing also? The radial tire is less rolling resistant force is there, because the risk coefficient of rolling resistance multiplied by normal load is what is the rolling resistant force, right? So this picture would be in your mind, so that you would answer that correctly always. And then this is another important thing that I was talking, as this is of highly damped nature, and there are speed rating index beyond which you are driving critical speed, threshold speed is called. And what would happen? There would be permanent standing wave formation. So how is it being obtained? It is obtained by this ratio of circumferential tension in the tire. That's the force by density of tire material per unit area. That's mass per unit length, right? Density per unit area under root. So you would check that force is Newton meter per second square, and it is kg. Sorry, this is kg meter per second square. This is kg by meter, because per unit area. So you get kg goes off. You get under root of meter square per second square, meter per second. So the speed is, threshold speed is like this. So the circumferential tension in the tire is because of your cord tensions. So if that tension and keeps increasing, so if you inflate more or your speed is increases, then what would happen? Beyond that speed, this tension by this would what will be deciding it, right? Yeah, so the car's design primarily important. So this what is something. Whenever you have such kind of permanent deformation or standing wave appearing at the high speeds, this is the point where you have more dissipation. So there will be more of energy dissipation, which would also cost your rolling resistance force to increase. So that's what is example. As speed increases, that you have your rolling resistance also increases. So these are all something that I had in mind that before we get into actual tire dynamics and deriving some equations and so on, we should have in mind what are this. So let me just put additionally here some empirical formulas for rolling resistance forces and complete. So this rolling resistance force is also being given by this empirical formula 0, 1, 36 plus 0.4 into 10 raised to minus 7 v square. So this is what the speed of your vehicle. So the dependency of this is the speed. As you increase, your value of rolling resistance will increase. This is for cars, right? And this is for cars, and this is for radial tire. And same formula would be different for this, that would have what a radial bias tire would have more than this. So you would see this is 0.0169 plus 0.19 into 10 raised to minus 6 v square for bias tires for cars. Similarly, you have also for truck tires. So this formula 1, formula 2, and this is for a truck tire, you have FR. For radial tire, it is 0.01 plus 0.23, 10 raised to minus 6 v square, and this is for radial tire R. And rolling resistance coefficient for bias tires of trucks given by 0.00. Bias tire for the trucks, you see, is 0.007 plus 0.45. See here, trucks are not going to have high speeds like that of car. So you see this low speeds here it is, and this numbers, you should look at it, why this is different. Into 10 raised to minus 6 v square, that's for bias tire. So let's say this is formula number 4. Just number this as per that number that's available in the textbook. And then another thing that we have looked at is the effect of speed, especially what we defined here. Let's call this as equation 5. So let's stop at this point, this period lecture. And again, after 5 minutes break, I would start the next class. So you can stay, no need to go out of this meeting, right? Yeah. Is there any question that you want to ask at this point of time? If not, I would stop recording.